Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jim Feist Handicapping Show here at Dom DeMarco's Pizzeria and Wine Bar. Once again, we're on the patio, 9785 West Charleston Boulevard. If you're ever in the area from Las Vegas, you need to come down here and check out the best happy hour. It's proven. It's won many awards, many years, including the pizza, the happy hour, the food, the drink, the wine. I can go on, but we're here to talk about college basketball and NBA basketball, which you must attend and check out. Dom DeMarco's Pizzeria and Wine Bar. Our panel consists of all sharps and no squares, and one of them's the guy next to me who really doesn't need any introduction, and Jim Feist. Jim, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Tom. How are you?
I'm good. You need your microphone up to you.
Oh, that's good. I got to talk into that. Okay.
There we go. And with us once again back, he can be heard on Fox Sports Radio, the author of The View from the Cheap Seats, Bernie Fratto. Bernie, how are you?
Good to be with you. 2 weeks from Selection Sunday, and I can't wait, frankly.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you for having me on your show. It was an honor to be on your show.
Terrific. We'll do it again.
Yes. All right, so here's what I want to do, Jim. I'm going to do the old snake theory where, you start where you finished. And last week, we ended with the NBA, so I want to start with the NBA before we get into college basketball. Bernie can help you out here a little bit. I don't follow or watch the NBA, but how did you do this last week in NBA?
It's been remarkable. I've said it before. I don't really enjoy the NBA because of all the load management. It kind of makes me angry. I go back to the days when players didn't want to sit, and now they all want to sit. But I see a lot of changes. I mean, the addition. I mean, look at the Warriors and the Lakers right now. All of a sudden, they became legitimate teams, and a lot of people are saying, you look at the Lakers, the Warriors, and the Thunder from the West, and of course you can't knock out Denver. They got to put them in there as a legitimate team. And then you go to the other side of the East. You can't fault what the hell Cleveland is doing. Nobody ever wants to talk about Cleveland being any good at anything, but they have a hell of a record. Boston's Boston. You got the Knicks. This is going to be. The playoffs are going to be much more interesting to watch, and I do like the NBA playoffs. It's always exciting. There's the talent in the NBA is amazing. If they want to play, these are the best athletes in the world. And this is getting to that time. It's starting to get interesting, and I'm excited for it.
Bernie, what's your takes on the NBA?
Well, it's been rejuvenated since Luka got traded to Los Angeles. They got a major market now in the West. It's been rejuvenated additionally with Jimmy Butler heading to Golden State. I never bet the NBA. It's like preseason football. You don't know who wants to give an effort. So you don't have that information in the NBA. I did bet one game recently. I saw the Clippers laying 4.5 against the Lakers. I thought the wrong team was getting points. The Clippers looked like a drunk crossing an icy street. So that was an easy win. The Lakers went out right. But Jim brought out the best point. It can become interesting when the playoffs start. And it might be more interesting this year. Remember, we don't have a royalty in this country, and our athletes are a royalty and our entertainers. And now that we have some names and faces to root for and against, the playoffs could be interesting. Cleveland's 51-10. Can that translate? Can they get over Boston? Can Oklahoma City with the youth and Shai Gilgeous as an MVP prevail? The Lakers are now going to become very interesting. To leave you with this thought, I got to know the late, great Chuck Daly pretty well, and he always told me, when the playoffs start, here's our motto: start with a stop. Game slows down because we're of a half-court game, and you got to get stops. So can the Lakers, with Luka and LeBron, and without a true big, get stops in the postseason? It'll be worth watching.
We'll have to see how the NBA all shakes out, as like I said many times. I'll let you guys tell me all about the NBA. I don't follow it. I don't watch it. I don't bet it. So I'm just going to let you take care of all of it. If you find something you really like, you can let me know.
Okay.
And I'll trade you some college basketball ones with
okay,
that.
let's start with that.
All right, it sounds good. Speaking of college basketball, don't forget the Dom DeMarco's Pizzeria and Wine Bar Basketball Madness Bracket Challenge. Somebody's gonna win a $300 food voucher, $200 for second, $100 for third, starting Monday, March 17th. As soon as this place opens up at, I believe, 11 o'clock in the morning, you can come here, pick up your brackets, fill them out. 2 brackets per person. Make sure they're validated and verified. When you turn them in, they must be in by Wednesday night at close, which is 9 p.m. So bracket challenge is coming. And speaking of March Madness, it seems like the madness every year during the season on a Saturday, we always have this week where a bunch of ranked teams get knocked off. Last night we had March Madness on a Tuesday, and we saw a lot of teams get knocked off. I have a thought on that, Bernie. And Jim, I want to ask your thought on it because it's just my personal one. It's something I've watched for a long time. It's something I've been part of. I don't like teams playing on their senior night when they have the ceremony before the game. I just went through it, and over 70% of them either lost or did not cover last night. That senior night screws up these guys, whether you think so or not, to the point where I was coaching, I moved my senior night ceremonies to after the game instead of before the game to kill all the emotions, because there's just too much emotion in a senior night game. And I wasn't surprised to see a lot of teams didn't cover. I wasn't surprised to see Auburn get beat. It's the SEC, and I said that they were going to drop someone somewhere along the line. What's your thoughts on senior night?
I would really defer to you because I think it's an individual thing. What's interesting is I was at the UNLV San Diego State game last night with my wife, and it was senior night for UNLV, and I watched the San Diego State kids shuffling around waiting for the ceremony to end, and San Diego State looked sloppy last night. They competed. So I'd have to defer to you, but I really want to talk about that Auburn game.
Yeah.
Because, and we're going to get to this later, I don't believe Auburn will win the national championship. I'm going to give them a hall pass for last night losing at Texas A&M because they had already clinched the SEC championship, and to a man they believe they've got a number 1 seed. But it's not that they lost, it's the way they lost by 11. And Janai Broome looked like he mailed it in last night. I don't like to see that. I'm a fan of Bruce Pearl to a point. No one ever told us what happened on that plane flight on the way to Houston today to turn around. So they'll find a way to screw it up. Last night was a precursor. If you ride Auburn's back to win this thing, be a little careful. You know, Tommy and Jim, the last 15 NCAA championships, NCAA championship teams, had at least one first-round draft pick on their roster. Auburn doesn't. So I don't think Janai Broome's a first-round draft pick.
He might. He's close.
He might sneak in, but he's not a lock like Cooper Flagg or some of these guys,
Yeah,
right?
he's a generational player.
Right. So what I'm getting at is, in a survive and advance deal, and I covered lots of Michigan State teams, you got to win 6 games in a row. And one you're going to have to survive and advance, and one you're going to have to put the team on your back. Janai Broome kind of mailed it in last night.
Well, they had the big win at the previous game.
At Alabama.
Yeah, and
they have them at home Saturday.
Yeah, it was a sandwich game, and A&M is a physical team, and they just beat them up. Mm-hmm. And A&M had not been playing well, and that game meant a lot more to A&M. I don't think that was that big of a shock. I actually expected it.
I wasn't shocked as well.
So I'm not taking anything away from Auburn for that particular game. Do I think they're going to win it all? Well, certainly they're going to be favored to do that because of their situation being number 1. I personally think Houston, with Calvin Sampson, the better outside shooting than they usually have, with their offensive and defensive rebounding capabilities and the way they play defense, has a hell of a shot. I think Texas Tech has a hell of a shot. I think you can't deny the ability of Florida to come up with a big game. Alabama, one of the leading scoring teams in the country. There's a lot of teams out there that could pop up and win this. You can't deny Missouri. You have to look at Duke and say, with Flagg, I mean, they can beat anybody. They're coming out of the weak conference, so their strength, the schedule, is not going to be all that strong. But with a player like that, who is a monster, is capable. So I think this is going to be a great tournament, not only in the conference tournaments, but in the NCAAs and the postseason stuff. But I don't take anything away from Auburn for last night at all. I expected them to have a tough time. I expected A&M to come up big in that game. And with the look ahead, the celebration in one, the flat spot against A&M, and the look ahead to the next game, I thought it was a perfect spot to go against them.
You know, you brought up something, and I'm going to get to the conference tournaments here in just a little bit, but the more and more, I've watched Houston. I've always been a fan of theirs, and after seeing them the last couple of games, they have to be, in my mind, they are the favorite to win it. They just can impose their will on you defensively, they start to wear you down, and somewhere after that under 8-minute TV timeout to the under 4-minute TV timeout, they find a way to get complete control, to flip a tide if they don't have it, or if they have it, to push it out where you're not going to get back on Houston. And they just continue to impose their will defensively down the stretch, and they can score, and they always find a way, somebody to hit a shot. And I'm watching it the other night going, this team right here is the team that I think could win the whole thing.
And I agree. That's why
Yes,
I bet them. I bet them. Well, I have a couple bets in that regard. But the last few years that they've been there, and Sampson is a great coach, they haven't been able to score. But this year they can score.
Yeah, and they've always had some injuries
and they have all
too.
the other ingredients.
Yep.
So
last year had Jamal Shedd not gone down,
Oh,
I feel like they probably would have won.
They might have,
gotten to the final game against Connecticut. We're never going to know. Okay, we're never going to know. Look, they certainly passed the eye test. I like Calvin Simpson. I like their physical makeup. Having seen Jerry Tarkanian's running Rebels courtside 3 times in my life, 3 times, including once against North Carolina State at the Thomas and Mack, twice at the Bren Center with Bill Mulligan, UC Irvine. They play that kind of tenacious, in your face, no free catches in space. We're going to wear you out. We're going to get into the shoot. We're just going to wear you out, right? But you brought up a great point. In the tournament, or anything can happen in a 1-game affair,
Yep.
right? You know, Houston lost to San Diego State earlier in the year.
yeah.
Okay, I'm not knocking them for it. That shows you in a 1-game affair, anything can happen. When the heat gets hot, it's hard to breathe in these elimination games. I've seen their offense disappear too many times. So I'm not picking them to win it all because I feel that'll happen again in this tournament. And, we'll get later to the team I think is going to win it all. I only think there's 7 teams that can win it all.
you do
It's only 7.
only 7.
You know,
And we can go over them when you're ready. Go ahead.
love to.
You brought up Texas Tech, which is to me is a sleeping giant.
Yeah.
That's a team that if they get the right bracket and the right matchups could be a sleeping giant to get to the Final Four.
They've had
For
a couple
sure.
injuries lately.
Yeah, they have.
That's hurt.
Let me ask you this, you guys. I mean, right now it's Auburn, Duke, Houston, and they're saying Tennessee is the last number 1. That's not a lock. It's still up for grabs with whether Alabama's going to get it, whether Florida's going to get it, whether Michigan State is going to get it. We're talking about a lot of these teams could get the number 1 seed. Bernie, does it make a difference who gets this last number 1, or do you think Tennessee's better off, or Alabama or Florida's better off as being a 2 and then a 1?
Well, history tells us when you get to the Final Four, how many ones are usually alive?
Not many.
You got to win. I am dubious on Tennessee. I love Rick Barnes until he gets to the tournament. And look, you're a coach. You forgot more than I know. Tennessee's pace of play is slow, and they in the tournament, and they dare you to shoot threes, which is a good recipe during the regular season, not in the tournament. So I don't like Tennessee and Rick Barnes to prevail.
And he's number 1 in the tournament. He can't get there.
Huh?
Rick Barnes, for some, he cannot coach in the tournament when it comes down to it.
Listen, I had
He doesn't. For
twice
some
I
reason,
got
he chokes
burned
every time.
Twice I've got burned in the last 5 years having Tennessee in the Final Four. And when you lose money on a team a couple times, you have a tendency to sour you a little bit, right? So that's how I feel about them. But I want to share something. We all know that the SEC is, I guess it just means more in basketball too, right? So they're going to get 13 teams in the tournament, right? Well, that's going to break the record of in 2011 where the ACC got 11 teams in the tournament. Guess how many of those teams got to the finals? None. Guess how many got to the Final Four? 1, Kentucky. That year, UConn beat Butler. So, past performance may not guarantee future success. Auburn, I believe, will be a number 1 seed. They can get to the Final Four. But don't be surprised if history repeats itself. And just because the SEC gets 13 teams in there, they get on the floor with different teams in different styles and different environments, and it doesn't translate.
What's your 7 teams you think you can win?
All right, I'll start with Michigan State. I'm a little biased because I know Tom Izzo, but ironically, they allow 3 more attempts than any other team that's ranked in the country. So they can be beaten. Alabama, ironically, they're too reliant on threes. I'm giving their fatal flaw. Any one of these teams can win it, I think. Believe it or not, Bama, who relies a lot on threes, ranks outside the top 100 in 3-point shooting percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn, I just explained what my Auburn is concerned about them. They don't have that top 15 pick that the last 15, or the top, check that. the first round NBA pick that the last 15 teams have had. I'm going to put Florida on the list, but they've shown me inconsistency. They were down to Georgia by 26. They were down to Missouri by 19. They were down to South Carolina by 13. You can't have that kind of lapse in the tournament. Houston, got to put them on the list. Certainly, again, I've just mentioned their offensive struggles concern me, especially against quality opponents in crunch time during the tournament. An honorable mention team, St. John's, but they're outside top 70 in offensive efficiency. And frankly, the Big East isn't that good this year.
No, and that's an issue because I look at KenPom every day. I look at offense and defense efficiency, and St. John's. That's my problem with St. John's. They're one of the top 4 or 5 in defense, but offensively, they don't have it.
They're not even top 70, and that showed when they lost to Georgia, 66-63, and they lost to Baylor, 99-98. Those are probably their 2 toughest games. One from the SEC, one from the Big 12. So I don't know. I love Rick Pitino. So flip all the cards. I believe the Duke Blue Devils are going to win it. Why? Because when I evaluate this, the only problem they have, their fatal flaw, is their rotation is the youngest in the country. So they lack experience. However, when I look at the ceiling of the talent of that team, that makes the difference over some of the other teams that I've mentioned. They have real talent on that team that translates well to the tournament. Future NBA talent on that team. I love what John Schreier has done. No one's talking about Duke. I think Duke wins it all.
And to your point on Duke, they're the only team in the NCAA that is in the top 5 in offense and defense efficiency according to KenPom.
But what about the strength of schedule?
That's the issue for me. That's
because
why
that's always been an issue.
Yeah, they're
you brought
blowing
up
people
other
out, but the
points.
ACC is so down this year.
Yes.
Outside of Clemson, who beat them, who Duke lost to at Clemson, they got North Carolina this weekend. I mean, it's a rivalry
Clemson's
game.
pretty damn good too.
You can throw some things out. Whether or not Carolina gets them, yes, they could. I think it's a little bit of a stretch, but the ACC so down, they haven't really been tested as they normally would be. So to your point, Jim, that's my fear with Duke is if they get into a tight game, the last time they were in a tight game, they got beat because they've been blowing everybody out.
Going back historically, strength of schedule is a monster statistic when you're evaluating a bunch of teams like this and trying to take them and going further, because they don't face that kind of talent every week, every night, and now they will have to.
They are 16-3 in quad 1 and quad 2 games, and I think you what you say is irrefutable. But I don't hold that against Duke because of their DNA. One of my favorite coaches of all time was the late great Alan Boyer. 1977, shows up at a press conference, and he announces his retirement right before the tournament. And the reporters look at him and they say, "Al, is this some sort of ploy to fire up your team for your last season?" He goes, "Come on, we ain't going anywhere, but we're going to be like a cockroach in a plate of spaghetti. We're going to fall into screwed up for somebody else." Sure enough, they beat North Carolina to win the tournament that year. There's one team that we're not talking about that could be that North Carolina State. It's Iowa State, 14-1 in quad 1 and 1-2 games. I can't put them in my top 8 to win it, but top 7 to win it. But just keep an eye on them.
Yeah, that's the team you can
I'll
gotta
mention
keep
a
an eye
couple
on.
teams. I want your opinion. Illinois.
Oh,
Now that's a dangerous
They
team.
bring their best.
If they come to play every night,
And
like they're
healthy.
capable.
and healthy. That's the big
Yeah,
thing.
and
They
They're not
just rode
healthy.
Michigan like a stick horse on their floor on Sunday. They wasn't even close.
That's yes, and that was one of my on Sunday. I didn't have a great Sunday. I had a great week, but Illinois was the one team I did have right. Okay, there's a couple teams on the West Coast that nobody ever talks about these guys because
St. Mary's?
Well, that's one, but the other guy St. Mary's beat twice this year.
Gonzaga.
Right.
Now they win by a lot and they lose by a little, and I know that we talked about them for years. This is the team to beat this, and they never do it. And again, the weak schedule, playing a conference with only 2 teams that can actually play.
Actually, no. I'll debate that.
Well, Santa Clara.
No.
They're very
Santa
good.
Clara's got a pro.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised when you see the West Coast Conference tournament that St. Mary's is playing Oregon State for the championship.
Oh.
Be careful with Oregon State. They're in the West Coast Conference with Washington State, and they're really athletic. And if they get going early, they're not a team that can come from behind. But if they're close or they get ahead, They're dangerous, and I won't be surprised if Oregon. I don't know if they can beat St. Mary's, but I won't be surprised if they're in the final.
But no word about Gonzaga.
Gonzaga's down. I don't know what's going on with Gonzaga this year.
But they'll
they
win
have
by
been down.
40 or lose by 2.
I think it's
That's
going
what
to be
they
a
do.
Sweet
Yeah.
16 team, but that's probably their ceiling.
Okay.
But Randy Bennett at St. Mary's, no one ever taught. I mean, I guess everybody's in bed when they're playing. They're really good.
They were really good.
Okay, will it happen? I'm not predicting it. Could they be a Final Four team? Yeah, it could happen.
You know what, Bernie? Here's what I like about St. Mary's, because being us out here in the West, we get to see them if you stay up and watch them. Man, they rebound the basketball.
That's right.
That thing goes up, and he's got 4 guys, sometimes 5, going to the rim to get the basketball. I mean, those guys rebound the hell out of the basketball. Yes, Ray.
I said that about Iowa State with the rebounding. Didn't work out well for me. But my question is, do you feel like it's lately, for the past year or two, we kind of have been paying an unnecessary tax on Gonzaga, almost like Kansas City? I feel like every time I look at the window, you're paying a premium for this team.
I mean, in the past you have, because they've been the juggernaut in the West Coast Conference.
Yeah.
But this year they're not looked at that favorably.
And in their non-conference, over the years, they've scheduled, quality non-conference teams and more than held their own. The Michigan State,
that's true. Yeah.
So they use that to get tuned up, and they don't quite have the horses this year they've had in the past, right? They don't have the Chet Holmgrens. Yeah, they don't have those guys.
Yeah. Let's talk about some games tonight and get your guys' thoughts on them. I want to start out with Maryland at Michigan. Michigan's a 2-point favorite. I just saw a thing on TV the other day with Lenardi, and they asked him for his Final Four, and he said, 3 teams you're going to think about, and then he said, fear the turtle. He said, look out for Maryland to be the sneak team to get to the Final Four. You like this?
I took Maryland tonight.
You did take Maryland?
Yeah, this is a tough time of year because you have the issue of, are they playing? Are they waiting? Are they like somebody asked a question this morning? Would it be better off for a team to go out early in the conference tournaments than to go late in the conference tournaments and try to win it and then fatigue themselves? So we have that kind of mentality going on out there that we don't normally have to deal with. I mean, that's this time of year issue.
Especially late tournaments, the
Yes.
ones that are ending on Saturday or Sunday of the Selection Sunday.
Right.
For sure. The early ones, people say like the West Coast Conference because they go so early, and they're done a week and a half before the.
That might be a benefit.
It is. I heard an interview with Randy Bennett, and they asked him that question. And he said, "I like it because if I have a couple injuries or some guys that are tweaked a little bit, they have time to get rested."
And it's been a long season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you like tonight?
Well, I'm with you on Maryland. If you've watched the last 60 days, Maryland's trajectory has been like this. They compete.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan's trajectory has been like this. Watch the film of Michigan when they put up 90 against UCLA. They got to put down the floor against one of the best defenses in the country. They're not doing that anymore. Teams are I was in Michigan 2 weeks ago, that Friday night game when Michigan State played Michigan, and Michigan State's defense completely frustrated Michigan's transition game on offense. They never got into an offensive flow, got off bad shots late in the clock. I'm like, what happened to these guys?
Bernie, this is just my personal opinion what happened with Michigan. Ever since Dusty May's name has been mentioned to take over Indiana, they have not played the same. Even though he signed a new contract. Yeah, but I've seen this happen before. They get contract extensions and they buy him out. But his name is one of the top names to go to Indiana because he's a Knight protege and a Knight disciple to take over Indiana. So ever since they've announced his name as being one of the front runners, Michigan has not played the same.
Great point. I didn't make that nexus. They're not the same.
Mm-mm.
Their physical attitude is not the same. I mean, I don't think they played hard against Nebraska. And by the way, I've always liked this quote since my high school football coach said it. If we bring our best and they bring their best, we want our best to be better than their best. Maryland brings their best tonight. They'll beat Michigan. They'll beat them outright.
Oh, I agree.
Bernie, what do you like on Florida at Alabama? Alabama 2.5-point favorite.
Here's your classic sandwich game, right? Because Alabama's got Auburn
On Saturday.
in Auburn
Right.
Saturday. But I have a lot of respect for Nate Oates. I loved him at Buffalo. You're going to get max effort against Bama tonight. About 2 weeks ago, Nate Oates was quite candid about, boy, have you seen our last 6 games? They're all against top 10 teams, 3 of them are, and they're losing them. They're finding ways to lose them. Tennessee beats them, they're losing them. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The game is a complete stay away for me. Florida can easily beat them.
Mm-hmm.
But is this the team that falls behind 26 to Georgia? Or is this a team that shows them and goes, oh, well, these guys, stay away from me. Stay away, complete.
You as well?
The only play I'd make in the game is Florida.
Right.
That's the only side I would have. You can't fault Alabama. I mean, they're the highest scoring team in the country. I mean, they can shoot. But their defense is a little bit lax. A lot lax. So, Florida, I think, is a better team. Getting a couple points. It comes down to attitude, and it is a big game coming up for Alabama. I like Florida.
My sense is Florida wants this game more.
Yeah.
Which is always huge in college.
Correct. Let me ask you this. I think this is a trap game for Tennessee tonight at Ole Miss. Ole Miss getting 2.5 at home.
I like Ole Miss.
It's senior night, which scares me.
Yeah, that's always an issue.
That's the problem for me. That's why I kind of stayed away from this game. You got a home team getting 2.5. You got Chris Beard.
It also depends on who the seniors are.
Yeah, you got Chris Beard at home. You know, he always likes to make a statement for the last time of a home crowd. But for me, for Tennessee, I think this is a trap game for him. Ernie?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Frankly, I didn't even look at that game. To me, it's a little bit under the radar game. Yeah, I wish I had an opinion, but I don't.
I went with Ole Miss.
Let me ask you this, because you brought up Illinois. There's no line out yet. But Friday, Purdue goes to Illinois. Do you like Illinois to win this game straight up, regardless of what the line is, or do you like Purdue to go in there and knock them off on their senior night?
What's the line going to be?
It's probably going to be 5-6.
I'm not laying at 7. Well, here again, Purdue's Jekyll and Hyde, but they're on the bubble. Purdue's better start winning games because
that's
but that's not an easy place to go.
And that's my key.
And that's not enough of a reason.
That's my key for this game. Is Purdue going to go in with a little chip on their shoulder? Know that, hey, we got to get this.
If it's a money line game and you're just taking the side, I'm on Illinois. But if I'm laying points, I'm not going to mess around with too many.
I got to tell you, I don't think Purdue is the same team on the road they are at ironically, Gene Cady Arena. Never even got to a Final Four. They got an arena named after him. But I'll tell you why. And I don't like Purdue. I had UCLA the other day plus 5.5. I think I got it plus 6. It went to 6 and I grabbed it. It was looking great till about 4 minutes to go. I don't know what the hell happened. They got steamrolled. And Purdue showed me for a short stretch, man, they were flying all over the place, going to the rim, drawing contact, getting to the line, driving, kicking, making threes. The last 4 minutes, they looked like the Harlem Globetrotters.
Caffeine, extra caffeine.
Extra caffeine. Yeah. And that was against UCLA, but it was at home.
We have a Purdue alumni sitting right there. What do you think, Tom?
He just turned 42 last week.
They got to win. They need to win.
Money line.
Listen, if they get hammered, let's say, they may not get in the tournament unless they do something crazy in the Big Ten tournament.
I want to go quickly to 3 games on Saturday. I want to get in these conference tournaments, so I think is the most fun week of college basketball before you get to the tournament. I'm curious, Bernie, you brought up St. John's. Saturday they're going to Marquette. Does Pitino have enough to go into Marquette and win that game?
Absolutely.
Well, why does he need to?
He does.
No, that's not Rick. See,
it's Rick Pitino. That's why.
DNA is you don't turn it on and you don't turn it off.
Right.
I don't care if we're playing pickup in the parking lot. I've been around Rick Pitino.
Marquette needs this game.
I begged UNLV to hire Rick Pitino when I was doing Rebel Extra 8 years ago, and the holier than thou bastard said, "Oh no, I'm not gonna have that, right?"
But Marquette needs this game badly.
You see, that's
not enough of motivation for me. Needing the game, we talked about this in the Super Bowl tournament. 31 of the 32 NFL teams will lose the game they need to win. So just needing the game might help a little bit, and that's going to wear off after the first 5 minutes. I think St. John's, they may go on a walkabout for a little bit, but man, I saw them. Another game I got burned on 2 Sundays ago when I was in Michigan. UConn was catching 6. They took control of the game early, and St. John's played with their food, and all of a sudden, they housed one
Yeah.
by double digits.
But it doesn't come down to the coaches anymore. This isn't like the 1960s or 70s when
Depends on the
actually
program,
the kids actually listen to the coach. The kids are celebrated. They won the Big East. They sewed it up. Marquette, what do they have to play for? They have a lot to play for.
Rick Pitino coached in the NBA. He won a million years ago at UMass.
He was a great coach.
Okay, he's got. Do you guys remember this? In 1988, when the Pistons beat the Celtics and advanced to the NBA Finals against the Lakers, and Kevin McHale went over and whispered something in Isaiah's ear, and Isaiah wouldn't tell anybody what it was for years. He told me, he said, don't just be satisfied to get there. They took the Lakers to 7 and lost. He goes, but we were. Pitino has magic dust. He's going to look in their eyes and say, remember how it felt to win the tournament or win the league? Don't give that back tonight.
What's the line? What's the line on this game? What do you think? What do we think the line is?
Short. It's going to be very short.
2.5.
Two and a half. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
There's no way I'll never fade St. John's again. Period.
Here's another one for you. Saturday, Arizona at Kansas,
Oh boy, there's
And-
two Jekyll and Hyde teams.
and the rumors keep getting higher and higher that Self is going to walk away when the season's over. They keep amping up every day. I keep hearing more and more. This is it for Self, and he almost looks like it. If you look at the sideline, he doesn't seem to show the same passion. Kansas hasn't been the same team in a long time. I don't know what's going on.
Arizona. What were the catch against Houston the other day? Because I was kicking myself out of bed. Were they getting more than 6?
Yeah, it was pretty good number.
So they hung the number.
Well, they scored 106 or 110 last night against Arizona State, and Arizona
No, that's
State,
Arizona. Arizona
Yeah.
did. So I'm talking about Kansas. They lost to Houston the other night, and they lost by 6. And I didn't get the game in because I was going to grab the points, and I think they hung the number. All right. So because of what Arizona did last night, they'll lay an egg at Kansas. That's the way I see it.
You know, the one thing we're not talking about is it's a different world right now with the portal. How many of the kids on these teams, knowing that my coach might be leaving, are planning to leave themselves?
Jim,
There'll be over 1,000, but
Those
it
guys
depends
aren't-
on their situation. I mean,
But their
how much
head's
are they
not- their
offering
head's
Cooper
not in
Cup?
the game.
Cooper
Flag.
I understand they're trying to break them the bank to keep him one more year too.
They're talking
Yeah.
monster money.
Yeah, 10 million, something like that.
Yeah,
Whoa.
I heard.
Really?
Yeah, I
He's
heard
going
10
to be the
million.
number 1 pick overall.
Oh my God.
I heard 10 million if he'll come back and play another year.
10 million.
Just, forgo the NBA.
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, it's
So
with
that,
the
that,
antitrust,
answers
there's
your,
no cap.
that answers your question
So
though, because
when you're handicapping games, I mean, this is a factor that we never had to deal with before.
No,
Now you go, okay, my coach is going to retire.
if he does,
Where should I go, and who's offering me the most?
and there's
We're not even talking about that.
hey, there's guys.
but
that-
it's real,
There's guys are going to be going to the Final Four that have already made up their mind and haven't told their coach that they're out.
right?
But they're looking for a bigger payday.
well, there'll be guys that'll enter the portal and pull themselves back out just to test the waters, just
Yep.
to see, right? I'll put myself in for 3 days, and if I got no takers, I'll stay.
Here's the other game I want to bring up for Saturday: Houston at Baylor. It's a battle of Texas, so to speak. Baylor's another team that keeps going up and down. You see some of these projection
Well,
polls.
they did.
Where
They
going to
won
be?
last night, but didn't cover.
Right.
Yeah, against TCU. It was a TCU, yes.
I just don't see Baylor holding off Houston right now.
No, Baylor's a highly capable team. They beat St. John's earlier in the year, put up 99 on them. But again, Battle of Texas. Again, I put Kelvin Sampson very much in the Rick Pitino. They don't turn it on and turn it off. They don't. You're going to get. It's going to be a fist fight in a phone booth every time you play Houston, and Baylor can't hang with them for 40 minutes. In my opinion.
Fundamentals. That's Calvin Sampson. He teaches fundamentals. They play every part of the game. They play well.
Indiana, I'll apologize and bring them back. You say don't use your cell phone anymore, Coach. Just stop texting.
That's
We'll
not
bring-
legal.
We'll bring you back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd know dearly Indiana would love to be back at top of the Big Ten.
you would
Bobby
think
Knight's
so.
spinning in his grave.
There's many conference tournaments that are already kicked off. We're going to have the bigger ones are going to start after this week. We can talk about more about them next week.
I had some dogs I played. You want to take a look?
Yeah, who'd you play?
Well,
So tonight you got High Point.
well, I had Fort Wayne at 6-1. I colgated 4-1. I'd say James Madison at 4-1. I had Marshall at 22-1.
So let's hold up. Let's go
So
back to the
these are-
horizon.
This is the top of the list that I started.
Let's go back to the horizon. Bernie and I were talking about this before we started.
Okay.
Be careful. Robert Morris is the number 1 seed in that conference.
Correct.
And a very good team.
Fort Wayne could beat them.
And that's why I took him at 6-1.
And the
I wasn't paying attention.
and the other team that I like a lot in this conference, just because of the coach of Greg Campy, is Oakland.
They won it last year.
Yes, they
got
did.
to the tournament and they beat North Carolina. They're not the same team.
And what a great
They're
coach.
14 and 7.
Oh,
Been
great
there
coach.
40 years. Football mentality.
Coach, great coach.
Here's the thing. There's a reason you're 14 and 17. You won 4 games to win the Horizon League tournament. Now they won one, going to beat Green Bay. But there's a couple. Northern Kentucky's tough. Fort Wayne's tough. Milwaukee's pretty tough. And to your point, Robert Morris probably the best team in the conference. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fair.
definitely.
That's fair.
Without a doubt.
You got the Patriot League. You got Colgate, which is a good pick.
Always good. Yeah.
And, right now, I think American, I think, is the number 1 seed. But watch out for the guys from Army.
So I think
the
there's only 2
Patriot League.
teams that can win. What's interesting, and I think Richard Pitino's done a great job at New Mexico. I'm very curious to see how they do in the tournament. Utah State and Boise State will probably battle it out for the Mountain West Conference tournament. And whatever you do, Utah State gets a bid. Fade them week 1. Mountain West teams stink in the
Terrible.
tournament. Just terrible. Utah State, it's almost bothersome how they lay an egg in the tournament every year.
You got the Sun Belt. You got James Madison at 4-1 and Marshall at 22-1.
Well, I love that. I mean, if Marshall can get down the road in this at 22-1, that's a bargain.
To me, there's only 1 team in the Sun Belt, and that's South Alabama.
They're very talented.
And a lot of seniors. A team that could win a first-round game in the tournament if they get there. A lot of seniors, a lot of depth on that team. South Alabama is the team I like there. You have the Big South. You got High Point. High Point's a great team, a really good team.
But I think Winthrop has a shot at 9-1.
And there's another team in that conference that's been to the tournament 2 of the last 3 years in Longwood, and I don't know what they have returning, but they have a coach that's experienced. Some of these other teams haven't been there. Winthrop was there a few years ago. What do you have in Northeast?
What do you think about
Central
Vermont?
Connecticut. There's really nobody
What
else.
do you think
in
about
Central
Vermont?
Connecticut.
Vermont
Vermont
sneaky good.
Vermont is a watch team for me.
Yeah,
Vermont is a team,
very much
They're
so.
very
in
good.
the American East, but Bryant's the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
But Vermont is a team you have to keep an eye on in the American East.
And they've got a DNA. They've got a
Yes,
tournament
they do.
for the Catamounts.
They play well, very well.
What do you have there? The
Ohio Valley.
Southeast Missouri State, for sure, is about the only team.
Tennessee
there.
State, I got a little bit of a shot at 4-1, but
If you're looking for a sleeper in that conference, Morehead State.
okay.
They started out 9-2 in conference. They fell apart. If they can get that back together, there's one there. Summit, man, you have no pick.
That was my pick, no pick.
I think it's Omaha's to lose.
They're pretty good.
Yeah, but the price is like.
the price is probably going to be really high.
I hate prices.
Is this Missouri Valley?
Mechanical parlay.
Missouri Valley, yeah.
Yeah, so Missouri Valley,
Thursday I have nothing.
I think it's Drake, Bradley, or Northern Iowa. It's one of those 3, and I won't be surprised if it's Drake. Drake's got Northern Iowa twice. Bradley and Drake have gone down to the wire a couple times.
Drake plays that style though that they make it easy to keep close to you.
Yeah.
Which is a.
And-
Yeah, they're the favorite.
Brian Wardle has been rumored to be leaving Bradley, so.
Bradley's tough.
Yeah,
Yeah, they can be there.
If Drake gets a tournament bid, they'll probably be an automatic autoplay for me round 1 because they're pretty good and they're not intimidated by anyone.
No. And your next team that you have down there for Friday in the Coastal Atlantic in Towson, let me tell you something.
Baltimore, yeah.
If they get the right pick, I'll put them in the second weekend.
Yeah.
I've seen them a few times. They are dogs.
No, they get
They got
they get
dudes.
those tough street kids.
They got
in
dudes.
Baltimore, Dunbar, and all those
Yeah,
schools
tough
I'm
kids.
telling you, they got dudes.
that maybe can't get into
Yeah.
Florida or something.
Southern is McNeese State. I mean, the guy that will.
I love the coach, man.
Yeah. What's his? I'm losing.
Kid, he was at LSU.
LSU.
Yeah, I know who you're
Will
talking
Wade.
about. Will Wade.
Yeah. on audio for paying guys off before it was legal to do so.
But it worked. He got results, man.
He's still at McNeese State.
What are you trying to say?
I'm just
It's like
trying
they
to
burned
say.
sulfurs at Michigan State after they won. Yeah, but we won.
That's right. I mean, there's a lot of great. I mean, if you're looking at
I love, dude. That guy's just a winner. I'm sorry.
he is.
That guy's
He is. And I'm surprised somebody else hasn't grabbed him out of McNeese yet. They might this year.
They
There's
don't
gonna
want
be
to go
some
on
turnover.
probation.
We don't talk too much. We don't talk enough about coaches. Some of these guys know how to coach.
Absolutely.
They just get it done.
Absolutely.
No matter where they are,
Yeah.
they do it.
Big
Well, to me, honest to God, when I fill out my bracket in a deciding game, to me it's coaches in the back and then backcourt. Coaches first,
Yep.
backcourt second.
Absolutely.
Because a good talented backcourt can control the pace of play. Maybe you get on a team with better talent.
It's your coach on the floor.
So maybe look. I got to give Larry Brown credit. He shot Billy Tubbs in the World in 1988 when they were supposed to slow down Oklahoma and Danny Manning. They ran him off the floor. Larry Brown was a genius. I'm sorry. I saw him in Detroit in 04. I covered that Pistons team. But for the most part, Isaiah Thomas once told me he thought point guard was the most important position in all the sports because one man with the ball in his hands can dictate the movements of 9 other people simultaneously. So if you have a smart backcourt, a talented backcourt, it becomes a great equalizer. But if you have a dumb coach, the two don't go together. And there are a few of them out there.
Oh,
There are a few of them out there.
there's more than a few.
Yeah, more than a few. Yeah, that's an
Here's
example.
another conference to keep an eye on. The Big Sky. Montana's the #1 seed. A team you got to look at is Northern Colorado. Got a lot of experience, a lot of upperclassmen. They're another team that could be dangerous and win a game in the tournament if they get the right pick.
What's funny is the Big Sky always manages to get 1 or 2 players. You wonder, how do they end up in the Big Sky? So in Long Beach, I went to the regionals one year, and Montana was in there. They had 2 brothers, Shal and Cranford. You probably remember those guys. It's going back a long way. I'm going, what do these guys do at Montana? They're both 6'8", white, and they look like 2 Vince Carters. Going down a flying Duncan. Big Sky is sneaky good. They're talented, they're just not deep.
Yeah.
What hurts them is they don't have the depth.
Yeah, that's a lot of those mid-majors and low-major D1s. They just don't have depth. They got a guy, and usually those guys get poached, and somebody's going to pay him more money next year to go play for a
Like, to your
bigger
point,
school.
They're in a different.
You know?
We're in a different world now. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in a completely different world. Close it up, guys. Bernie, let me go to Sunday. Michigan at Michigan State.
I think Tom Izzo's got their number, and you brought up a great point about Dusty May, which I did not know. I just saw. Look, in betting and in handicapping and analyzing, we can crunch numbers all day long. But at the end of the day, honest to God, I do trust my eyes that tell me a lot, and I don't like what I'm seeing out of this Michigan team.
No.
I'm not saying I'm going to bet the game. I'm guessing the line will be you're going to pay a price.
Yeah, that's the problem.
You're
That's
yeah.
the problem.
You're going to pay a price. So it's, I don't want a money line parlay or something down.
After what you saw with Illinois against Michigan, the price.
That was shocking.
Yes, it was.
At home.
It was.
And then
They
I was
weren't-
not
they
impressed with
weren't even
Michigan.
competing.
Michigan was a 2-point favorite at Nebraska. They didn't deserve it.
No.
Didn't deserve it.
Questions? Oh, hold on, Crack, you go first.
I just want to say, before you guys go off, a guy that's been on Bernie's show many times, Alan Boston, will be on your show on the 26th in 3 weeks. He's going to be here.
Alan's fantastic.
Yeah.
Alan Boston's going to be
Oh,
here. I just booked him.
really?
For here. Yep.
Awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I told Albert already, so
Al,
Alan Boston will
One of
be
the
on.
most interesting
He's-
people you will ever
he
meet.
is- he is-
I
Been on
told
my
him,
show.
but you'll understand this too. I said to him, Al, you probably want Alan on alone without anybody else. You know.
No, well, Jim, certainly, but
No, of course, Jim. I mean, he had another guest. That
no,
he-
don't. Alan, look,
He would have him on alone.
Alan's a guy. He's Ivy League educated. He is incredibly funny and smart. If you want to, I'll tell you what. I'm leading the witness. Ask him how he feels about Roy Williams, and he'll just bring down the house.
Oh yeah.
He has no filter,
No.
man.
He has no
Yes.
filter.
Well,
I don't know if you allow cursing.
I don't
curses
know.
by accident.
I don't know Alan, but I respect him. I try to read what I can
Yeah.
that he says on Twitter and stuff.
Yeah.
He is
Hard to read, understand.
I just love listening to him.
Yeah. I love listening to him.
You know what Alan's greatest strength is? He
Absolutely
has the uncanny ability to sort the craft from the manure. Like you'll have a preseason ranking team. Oh, no way that team should be ranked 4th.
Yeah.
And just
They're
put
right.
it this
and
way.
he'll end up being right.
He's smarter than the average bear, for sure.
And having
He went to Penn. He
having a
went to
great
Penn.
season again, by the way. Real
Right.
quiet about it, but he's having a very good. I get all those. I get a lot of his plays, so he's having a very good season on his strong plays this year again. And you know, he does his own homework with notepads. He's got notepads, boxes of them.
Who
No
needs,
computers.
who needs computers?
No
Nobody.
I can tell you, Alan is a tremendous historian. He's an incredibly avid reader, incredible intellectual curiosity. He's a really interesting guy.
Yeah, worked for Billy Walters for 11 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem with national radio is I got 600 affiliates and time clocks to manage,
right.
so you can't have a guest on more than 12 minutes.
He's tough.
And it doesn't do him justice.
He's tough.
It's like saying, Sinatra, can you come and concert today? We only got time for one song.
Well, he'll be here on the
I'm
26th.
glad you didn't ask me to sing.
Next week with us will be Ken Thompson, and I think we have one more question from the crowd that we're going to stay tuned after we go off here. We have bottles of wine to give away, compliments to J. Lore. Ray, you had a last question?
How many points will Mark Sears have tonight?
I don't know.
Well, he better have 20 if they're going to win.
Okay, over-under is 21 and a half. So,
I don't look at players.
He could get, you know, it's
I
a
look
really
at
excellent,
matchups, but
it's an excellent question. I'm not a
senior
prop
night
guy,
then?
yeah.
but I want to address his question.
Is he a senior?
Mark Sears, oh yeah, he's the best player. I think he's Alabama's best player.
He's definitely their best.
But
player.
he's-
But he's a
And
guard.
senior
He's
night.
a guard. Sears is where America used to shop. Here's the bottom line, Ray. He could get in foul trouble. That's what worries me. That's why I'd never bet the over.
Right, that's what we're. Thank you.
All right, everybody, good luck on their bets. We will see you next Wednesday here for the Jim Feist Handicapping Show. My name is Tommy Canale. I'm the host of the show, and we will see you then next
Good job,
week.
Mark.